Rob, I've seen The Thing at least 25 times.
Yeah, well, I've seen Dazed and Confused at least 50.
I've seen Predator probably 75 times, maybe 100.
That's pretty good, but I've seen Battlefield Earth.
How many times?
Just once.
You got me. Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, big movies, small movies. Rob, I'm not a competitive person. In fact, my favorite part of working here at Rewind Video is partnering with you on the staff recommendation shelf, and it's truly a partnership.
Teamwork.
Yeah. Each week, we bring 6 movies to the shelf, 3 from you, 3 from me, and each time we update the shelf, we adhere to a theme. No judgment, no wrong answers. Neither of us are concerned with the fact that customers have rented your movies a total of 612 times, mine a total of 589 times.
That is true. Those numbers are accurate.
Yeah, we're not keeping track of that.
Yeah, no, I do have them memorized. But
And you know there's no ulterior motives behind the fact that I'm actually putting your movies behind mine tonight. That's just to make sure that, you know, we save some space and keep our elderly customers from having to reach down to pick. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking out for the people. Anyway, our 6 movies this week focus on the theme of competition. How do you feel about this theme?
Finally, an episode that I can win.
Well done, well done. So this is my theme, and I think competition is fundamental to good storytelling. It makes for a great movie, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this topic. I personally think my topics are a little bit better than yours.
Okay.
If I had to choose, but no, this should be a fun one. I'm not competitive myself,
right.
Similar to how you are, but yeah. I do think I'm going to win this one.
Okay, well, you know what? We'll see. We'll see which movies get plucked from the shelf first. I don't have a whole lot to say about this theme, other than the fact that it did feel like there were a lot of movies to choose from, as usual.
Yeah.
I think we do a good job at picking themes that let us pull from different genres, and that's certainly the case this week.
That is the idea. Of course, sports movies fit into this. Almost every sports movie involves competition of some sort. Absolutely.
Incidentally, there's an element of hustling in all 3 of my movies. That wasn't intentional, but it definitely became clear as I was putting together my notes. I also realized that all 3 of my at least 2 of my films, there's a character by the name of Vincent, and I would say in all 3 there's also this element of the main character kind of competing with himself.
Well, you got to hustle to win the game.
Right, yes. Some common ground, at least among my 3 picks, but I think the competition component takes some different forms. And I will say this, I'm proud of the fact that I didn't bring anything to the shelf this week that people should find very upsetting. Nobody gets eaten.
For once.
There's nothing traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a more digestible selection of films.
You've turned a corner.
Trying.
Yeah, that's what our customers keep saying.
Well, why don't you get us started with your first pick? I'm excited to talk about it.
First movie I'm choosing today is Glengarry, Glen Ross from 1992. This is directed by James Foley, who actually went on to do the 50 Shades sequels.
Oh.
And he directed Who's That Girl with Madonna.
He did the 50 Shades series. All 3
sequels.
of them.
No, the sequels. He didn't do the first one. The one that's, I think it's darker and freed, which I don't even know what that means. I haven't seen any of them.
Right.
More importantly, this is written by the legendary David Mamet.
Yes.
The playwright, screenwriter, director. His credits are too numerous to get into. He did write The Edge, which has been on the shelf before.
He did. This is my favorite movie that's been written by David Mamet.
Oh yeah, he's written a lot. This is a hell of a script. This is in the drama section, filed under Man Business.
Oh,
here's the back of the box. When an office full of New York City real estate salesmen is given the news that all but the top 2 will be fired at the end of the week, the atmosphere begins to heat up. Shelley Levine, who has a sick daughter, does everything in his power to get better leads from his boss, Josh Williamson, but to no avail. When his coworker, Dave Moss, comes up with a plan to steal the leads, things get complicated for the tough-talking salesman.
That sums it up.
I think whoever wrote the back of the box here thought they were David Mamet. They just wanted to keep going. You are no David Mamet.
No, indeed.
Tagline: lie, cheat, steal, all in a day's work.
That
Pretty good.
Yeah, acceptable tagline.
I also am not convinced these guys are in New York City.
No.
The play, I think, takes place in Chicago, if not explicitly, then kind of implied.
The movie has Chicago vibes.
The movie has Chicago vibes, and I think they even mentioned some Chicago suburbs or something, but the cops are wearing NYPD stuff, so whatever. It's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. But this is based on Mamet's play from 1983, which won him a Pulitzer. This is kind of what solidified his reputation, because he'd been writing some movies and plays and whatnot, but this is the movie that like turned him into the legend. The back of the box makes it seem like there's more plot than there really is. This is really just about four salesmen, played by Jack Lemmon, Ed Harris, Al Pacino, and Alan Arkin. And they all work for this incredibly dickish office manager played by Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey's so good at playing this type of role.
He is such a slimy dick.
Yes.
All these guys want the Glengarry leads,
Yes.
which are the supposedly good leads that will allow them to finally make sales. There are a few twists and turns along the way, including a break-in and a land deal gone sideways. But this is mostly just salesmen being salesmen.
I'm curious, would you buy real estate from any of these guys?
You know, the level of business that they're at is like so confusing to me.
It is.
Because it seems like these guys are scamming people.
Yeah.
Right? Like cuz they're being deceptive, they're lying about things, they're being tricky, and they're trying to like trick people into signing contracts and their weak points of their lives, and but at the same time you're like, well, I don't know where this property is, but like chances are if they invested in property and then they owned it, you know, it's going to go up in value. Right?
Yes.
Like,
Right.
I don't know.
It's also their personalities and sales tactics are like an equal mix of like intimidation and like fake chumminess, which
Yeah.
I don't know. I just find it so distasteful. But I understand that that's how this industry works.
I guess so. I mean, I guess this is also from the 80s too.
Right.
When there was a lot of like land being developed and we got to sell these housing developments and yada yada. Nowadays we live in a world where there's not nearly enough housing and not nearly enough places for people to live. So this kind of land would be snapped up before, you know, you wouldn't have to talk anybody into it probably.
You
Not in
wouldn't
the
need
same
somebody
way.
to even sell it. I mean, it's if it's on the market, it's gone, right?
These guys remind me of the timeshare business from an episode or two ago, where it's just like you're just trying to get people in the door and agree to like agree to things that they don't necessarily want. Which nowadays I don't think you need to do that with property.
No.
But maybe back then you did.
Yeah.
But even though this isn't giving us much in the way of plot, the script really is out of this world.
It is. It's great.
The writing is it's snappy, it's subtle, it captures the brutal nature of the sales industry. And the recurring theme is if you don't close, you don't matter. I mean, it's stated right out.
Coffee is for closers.
Coffee is for closers.
Yeah.
Like if you're not a good salesman, you're a fucking loser.
Right.
The pressure is always on for these guys. And because it's such a great script, they could attract probably whoever they wanted. And the cast is just amazing here, and they're doing incredible work.
I think that's why it's my favorite script by Mamet, because I remember seeing Heist in 2001.
Yeah.
And that's also a Mamet script. And the cast there is good, but it's not to this caliber. And these guys nail it. They understand the delivery. They play the characters perfectly. It's
Pacino got an Oscar nom for this.
Yeah.
Arkin's great. Harris is great. Spacey, we said, just top level slime ball.
yes.
Jonathan Pryce is in a small role that he just nails.
Yeah. It's the guy at the bar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jack Lemmon is otherworldly as the machine.
Yes.
He just is in this role. He just seems like he's been playing this part for decades.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously there's a lot of inspirations here, a lot of Death of the Salesman and whatnot, but he just like so instantly inhabited this role. It became an archetype. It became a character on The Simpsons. Yeah. You know? And yeah, even the first time I saw this movie, it was just like, it just seems like he's been doing this forever.
Right.
He's this guy.
And, you know, I don't know that for people who haven't seen, I think that a lot of people are probably familiar with Baldwin's famous speech.
Yeah.
From this movie, even if they haven't seen the film. But that happens in the first 15 minutes of the movie. I mean, like, it kicks things off, and it sets the tone for the rest of the film.
It really does. And like, he comes in and he just takes over the movie for 5 minutes. He burns the place down.
Yes.
That scene wasn't in the play.
That character wasn't in the play.
That character wasn't in the play. I guess Baldwin was attached to play Al Pacino's part at some point, and then when that didn't happen, they're like, listen, we'll figure out a part or whatever. But like, it's hard to imagine this movie without that scene.
Totally agree.
It clearly lays out the competition ahead.
Yes.
You know, like either you're a closer, you're making sales, or you're a loser. You know, like either you get the car or you're fired. Go home.
Right.
And man, he's just so good as the big shot with the expensive car and the expensive watch. He was just really fucking proud of those things.
Oh yeah, and he's not afraid to flaunt it.
No, he's just there for Mitch and Murray, like because they probably have even more expensive cars and more expensive watches
for sure.
But yeah, so this is a case of competition being used as a substitute for proper management. You know, because that's what this business is. Instead of saying like, we're going to give you the resources, the proper leads to sell this property, we're going to like hold them back from you so you can't do your job. But then we're going to have a competition to make you guys work harder. It's like, this is the starving dog mentality. Like, how is this a good way to run a business?
Right.
It's just, it's a poor use of competition in my eyes. Also, the sales world in general is just very competitive. And these guys, there's a lot of dick measuring between these guys. Oh, yeah. Old-timey salesman things like, I went to him and I ran the old trick and ladder or whatever, you know?
Yes.
So there's a lot of cool salesman lingo and stuff, but all of it, there's a competitive edge to every bit of it.
Yeah, it definitely has some authenticity to it, and I want to say that I read somewhere that David Mamet, this is kind of semi-autobiographical. I think Mamet worked as a real estate salesman when he was younger and has some experience with it. So yeah, it feels like he knows this business and how shiesty it can be.
So Glengarry, Glen Ross digs into competition within the world of real estate, sales in general. It exposes how those things can lead to success and failure in the business world. And it's also a great look at competition between men.
Yes.
And so I think in addition to that, it's got an amazing script, tremendous performances. So it's going up on the shelf for competition.
Great first pick. This is a classic for good reason.
Yeah. It's a talker.
It's a talker, but it has such momentum to it.
It does.
And yeah, it just start to finish. It's great.
Dialogue is amazing. The delivery is amazing. It starts and it goes. There's no slow parts to this movie.
Well, if you like Alan Arkin in Glengarry Glen Ross, I'm going to give you some more with my first pick. I'm going to 1997's Gattaca, plucked from the Please Don't Let This Become Our Actual Future section of the store. I adore this movie. It's my absolute favorite type of science fiction. Not concerned with flying cars or imagining what technology is going to look like in a few decades. It has a story to tell in what feels like the not too distant future. Mm-hmm. And everything from like the retro futuristic art direction, the buildings chosen for the set, everything about this world all contribute to making this feel pretty timeless.
It's like an Art Deco future.
Yeah. So let me give us the back of the box. It says, in a future society, in the era of indefinite eugenics, humans are set on a life course depending on their DNA. Young Vincent Freeman is born with a condition that would prevent him from space travel, yet he is determined to infiltrate the Gattaca space program. Tagline here is, there is no gene for the human spirit.
Let's do another draft of that, guys. Come on.
Try again. So this has some things in common with some previous films that I've brought to the shelf. It stars Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke, which we both we saw both of them in Tape, which I recommended a month or so ago.
Yeah.
It was also written and directed by Andrew Niccol, who wrote The Truman Show.
He sure did.
Which you recommended for our obsession theme. So Back of the Box is pretty accurate at teasing what's happening here, but what this movie is really about is one man's mission to prove that he's every bit as capable of achieving his dream as his genetically engineered counterparts who are all but guaranteed an opportunity to pursue whatever they want in life, you know?
Yeah.
Hawk's character was born naturally without the help of genetic manipulation. Most of the other people in this world, especially the upper class, are able to ensure that their children are born genetically superior without predisposition to cancer or anything like that. But it's also heart problems. I think there's a doctor at the beginning who positions it as like, we're not really like, stacking the deck. It's more like, you're giving your child the best versions of yourself.
Well, I mean, his sales pitch was good.
Yeah, it is really good.
It's hard to argue with what he's saying.
Right.
It's like if you're having a child and you're like, listen, I understand that you might have some reservations about this technology and whatnot, but like, if I can guarantee you that your son or daughter is not going to have a cancer, or they're not going to have have to need heart surgery in the first 40 years of their life, if I can guarantee you those things, why wouldn't you do it?
Right. I mean, it'd be hard to say no to.
Yeah, it'd be impossible.
Yeah, I agree. So people like Ethan Hawke's character in this movie are referred to as invalids, and generally they're relegated to menial jobs like janitorial work. He's able to penetrate the world of the elite by assuming the identity of a man who is perfect in every way, if not for the fact that he's handicapped. And the rest of the film is about following Hawke's attempt to become an astronaut under the guise that he is someone who he actually isn't.
He does a lot of work to make it happen.
Oh my God, yeah. But they make the point, and it's validated by how the movie unfolds, that it doesn't even really matter if you look like the person that you're pretending to be, because as long as you can pull it off with a blood test or some sort of DNA evaluation, nobody's going to question it. They just assume that these people are who they are, and yeah.
It's like as soon as someone can hack a Face ID system.
Right.
Then no one's going to question it. It's like, look, it's facial recognition. I pass.
The thing says I am who I am.
Yes.
So competition is here in two ways. In one sense, Ethan Hawke's character of Vincent is competing with society's insistence that only genetic engineered people are able to be astronauts or, athletes or these, elite roles in life. But it's also about Vincent competing with his younger brother, who, unlike him, is genetically engineered. So, it's a new take on a sibling rivalry, which I find pretty interesting. So why did I choose this? Like I said, I love this brand of science fiction. It's a provocative story, and it's a lot closer to being, I think, a reality in 2023 than it was in 1997.
There's not a lot here that isn't possible now.
Right, which is frightening. I don't think that the story they're telling here is that far off. I also really love the score in this movie. So it comes to us by way of Michael Nyman. It's very present throughout the film. Truly beautiful. But I love how genuinely personal Vincent's quest is to become an astronaut. It supersedes love. It takes precedence over family. It takes over Vincent's entire life. I mean, you made mention of that at the beginning. I mean, he really has to go through a transformation to become this other person. And it goes beyond just...
it's a hassle.
Yeah,
he's got the blood thing on his fingers and this and all the
scrubbing his body of
with the
dry skin every
on
day.
The keyboard. He's vacuuming his keyboard constantly. And
he's trying to hide.
It's not worth it. Sorry, bro. It's not worth it.
Space is just dark and empty. But I do admire the dedication, and I believe that he's as passionate about this as he must be.
It's true determination.
It is. Cast here is great. Ethan Hawke, Uma Thurman, Jude Law is awesome. Gore Vidal, Ernest Borgnine. We mentioned Alan Arkin. They're all here. Roger Ebert loved this. He said, "This is one of the smartest and most provocative science fiction films I've seen. A thriller with ideas." But I was most intrigued by the review from a molecular biologist by the name of Lee M. Silver. He said, "Gattaca is a film that all geneticists should see, if for no other reason than to understand the perception of our trade held by so many of the public at large." Which, yeah. I mean,
So he's working on this right now.
oh, absolutely. He's probably done.
Yeah. I had a couple thoughts about this.
Yeah, I'm curious.
First of all, he's still using like a genetic basis to get where he's going, right? Like he didn't change the world into a meritocracy and then he ascended to the top.
You're saying that he was already someone who would be eligible for this job if not for the fact that the world had kind of decided we're only going to choose the genetically elite?
No, I mean the opposite. I mean like he's using genetic information to get his position.
Oh,
The same way everybody else is.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
the world didn't change into a meritocracy and then he was the best.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. He didn't do that. He just used someone else's genetic information to pretend that he was one of the others.
That's true. That's true.
Like obviously it made, you know, they show that like, oh, he's excelling at this and
Yeah.
and that and whatever, but still
yeah.
he just wasn't failing. When you have those genes, as long as you reach a threshold, you're in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And he reached that threshold
yeah.
barely, it seems.
Indeed.
Also, my main thought about this movie is there's a lot of piss in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much piss. Like the main, the climactic plot point hinges on a cup full of piss being tested by a guy, and he's like, "It's good." Or he's like, "I'm just gonna pretend it's good." Like, there's so much piss in this movie. It's amazing.
There's a lot of piss, and I saw a review on Letterboxd that I didn't actually pull, but somebody made the point that the plot seems to hinge on one man's admiration of Ethan Hawke's dick.
That's true. I forgot him. Yeah, he's like, I like you. I like your dick. And you know what? Your piss doesn't smell too bad.
I'm
You think
okay
they'd
with
have
it.
a better because these guys are testing so much piss all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You think they'd have a way to test it where you didn't have to like have your face in it, but like these guys have like literally like a big giant wide ass beaker full of piss constantly. And they're sticking their hands in there with the little, you know, the dropper. Anyway, that's
A lot
like,
of piss.
I couldn't believe it. And then to have the movie, you know, climax on a big goblet full of piss. I was like, this is too perfect.
Yes.
But yeah, it's good. I love that kind of science fiction too.
Well, this comes in at a 3.7 on Letterboxd. It is a 5-star movie for me, in spite of all the piss. I do love it, so I'm putting it on the shelf, right atop Glengarry, Glen Ross.
Fantastic. All right, I'm gonna clean myself up here a little bit.
Yep. You don't want any DNA all over the place here.
All right, I'm actually gonna do something I don't normally do. I'm going to stay in the year 1992. I try to mix up decades. I try not to have two movies from the same decade and the same topic.
Wow. Interesting.
So, two movies from the year 1992, but I don't think these movies have any similarities whatsoever. These movies are diametrically opposed in every way. I am choosing A League of Their Own.
Quite a different movie.
Very different. This is filed under Lady Ball in the sports section. Here's the back of the box. As America's stock of athletic young men is depleted during World War II, a professional all-female baseball league springs up in the Midwest, funded by publicity-hungry candy maker Walter Harvey. Competitive sisters Dottie Hinson and Kit Keller spar with each other, Scout Ernie Capadino and grumpy has-been coach Jimmy Dugan on their way to fame. Tagline, to achieve the incredible, you have to attempt the impossible.
Womp,
Yeah,
womp.
blah.
Yeah.
Blah. This is Penny Marshall's 1992 dramedy about the short-lived All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, or as we all call it, the AAGPBL.
Right. Colloquially.
Yeah. The two sisters are played by Gina Davis and Lori Petty, who get recruited to play for the Rockford Peaches, a real team.
What happened to Lori Petty?
You know, that's not the first time I have customers ask me that all the time.
Right.
Whatever happened to her? 'Cause she's good in like 5 things, and then she just kind of disappeared.
Poof. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there's a story.
We'll have to follow up.
Maybe there's a story. The cast includes Tom Hanks at the peak of his powers as the coach, as well as John Lovitz, Bill Pullman, and Jason Strathern in smaller roles. I consider this to be Tom Hanks's last role in the comedic section of his career.
I don't disagree. I think that he's unintentional. Like, he's not trying to be laugh out loud funny in later parts, but like here he is.
Here he is. I mean, his character is a miserable bastard.
Yes.
And I think you need that cynicism to balance the rest of the movie. But yeah, it's definitely a comedic turn. But yeah, before 100%. This, he had been in The Money Pit, Big, The Burbs, Turner and Hooch, Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh. Yeah.
And then after this, he went then he went to Sleep. He was one of the best comedic actors in Hollywood. And then he made Sleepless in Seattle after this, which is, romantic comedy, but like a more serious turn. Then it was Philadelphia, Apollo 13, Forrest Gump. And by then it was like, the page had completely turned and he was no longer Tom Hanks, the comedic actor anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a good baseball movie.
And this is one of those.
There's something about the dirt, the wooden bats, the leather gloves. Yeah. It's a very tactile sport.
Yeah.
It also doesn't hurt that it's generally played in warm, sunny weather, which is good for the vibe, good for photography.
You also love Madonna.
You know what? She's good.
She's not bad.
She's a talented person.
Yeah.
The Peaches have the energy of a real baseball team. It's a bunch of ladies hanging out, traveling from town to town, playing baseball.
Yeah.
The dynamic between the players, it feels authentic. Rosie O'Donnell is kind of great as the wisecracking tough girl.
Yeah, she is.
Madonna, this was like her 6th or 7th movie.
Yeah.
Which means this is the 6th or 7th time she's ever acted before, I think. And I think I haven't seen a lot of her other stuff. I don't think she's like a terribly gifted actress necessarily, but she has like a presence, and this movie captures that without like having to lean on her as an actor all that much.
Right.
And like the rest of the team's like pretty unknown, but like they all fill their roles. They're role players.
They all feel like distinct personalities.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
important.
Yeah,
because it's
sure.
a big cast.
Yeah, and it's fun to spend time with them in the dugout and in the locker room. Gina Davis is the star of the movie, of course. She's also the star of the team. But I think her character is really defined by her lack of a competitive edge.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of athletes of recent years that have retired earlier than they're kind of expected to. And the media and the fans get all bent out of shape. And I'm like, we don't understand. Like, why aren't you,
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people to understand. Like sometimes the athletes don't care about it as much as you do.
That's so true.
Like Andrew Luck or Ricky Williams. Like they don't give a fuck. Like maybe they're like, listen, I like making the money, but like once I did that, like I'm done. Like I don't care if I have a trophy in my house.
I just want to go to Rewind Video, rent movies, smoke weed.
Exactly. But yeah, the fact that Dottie is great at baseball doesn't mean she has to enjoy it or that it's important to her.
Right.
But this really bugs me about this movie. I respect Dottie's decision to walk away from the game because she doesn't care about it as much. But like, you don't do that the day before the World Series starts.
No, you don't.
You don't do that. I mean, I understand you want to spend time with your husband who just came back from the war, but like, can't you wait another week? Like, isn't there time between games?
You're still on a team.
Like, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to her team, the league, and like possibly the whole idea of women's sports.
I agree.
So, I mean, that really rubs me the wrong way. But I get it why they do it from a story perspective. You need to end the movie somehow, and that's a convenient way to do it. But like, I don't agree with her decision to do that.
No, that's not something that I've thought too much about. But on recent rewatches, it's a glaring decision.
You don't love baseball. You can quit in a week. Just give it a week.
Just
like
a week. That's it.
These girls on your team have been working their asses off all season.
Right.
Anyway.
And your sister.
Your sister.
Yeah.
Her sister was gone by that point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Her sister was on the other team.
Yeah. So you have the competition of baseball, but you also have the rivalry between these two sisters, and you have Dottie, who is the golden child, who's smarter, she's more athletic, she's better looking than everybody around her, and like she doesn't really even understand that. And then you have Kit, who's kind of the second best at everything, and she feels this competition intensely with everything they do. Like everything is a competition to her, and she's always losing. Meanwhile, Gina Davis, like, she doesn't even notice because she's just better at everything and she's like, whatever, like, who cares who wins? It's like, yeah, because you win every fucking time. And then at the end of the movie, finally, Dottie has to lose for her to acknowledge that, like, oh, there is this rivalry between me and my sister. Now I understand it, and so like now they can move past it.
Yeah.
And so like the competition between them was integral to their relationship.
Absolutely.
League of Their Own. It's an entertaining look at a slice of American history. It's got a great, fun ensemble cast. And I think it's a really good look at competition between females. Very different from something like Glengarry, Glen Ross, which is like, very dick measuring competition.
Yes.
So this is not just through sport, through the sibling rivalry we see competition. So I'm putting it up on the shelf this week.
For a movie that's all about women, Tom Hanks is so good. He is so good at letting the women shine in the roles that they play, but also carving out a space for himself in this that is so memorable.
He's I'm going to say this right now. I think Tom Hanks is a good actor.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you put this up there. I'm sure a lot of our customers have seen it, but there's never a bad time to rewatch. So
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Watch it every summer.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm not trying to one-up you, Rob, but
Damn.
I'm going to bring to the shelf my movie from 1992.
Oh. Is this a competition? Who can bring more 1992 movies to the shelf?
I don't know, but maybe it was just a really good year. I think it was because
Great
it
year.
Gave us Glengarry, Glen Ross. It gave us A League of Their Own. It also gave us White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah.
This is from the Ball is Life section of the store, right next to
Lady Ball.
Lady Ball, yeah. Back of the box here. Billy Hoyle is a white basketball hustler who banks on black players, underestimating his skills on the court. When he pulls one over on Sidney Dean, played by Wesley Snipes, his victim sees a lucrative opportunity and they become partners in the con game, plying their trade across the courts of Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Billy has to keep one step ahead of the mobsters who he owes money to while staying on the good side of his Jeopardy-obsessed wife. Tagline: it ain't easy being this good. Bad tagline. Yeah. Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, Rosie Perez. Basketball. What's not to like?
1992.
1992, yeah. So I grew up with this film. It was something I had taped off of television as a kid. Watched it countless times. This was written and directed by Ron Shelton, who has a history of sports movies. He directed Cobb, Bull Durham, Tin Cup, among a few others. Apart from the three main stars I mentioned at the top, there aren't a lot of recognizable names here. Keanu Reeves almost played Woody Harrelson's part, but Reeves just wasn't good enough at basketball to get the gig. And I'm glad he didn't, because Woody Harrelson is so perfect for this role. He's so
I think
good.
Keanu would have been good, but it wouldn't have been the same.
It wouldn't have been I don't think it would have been as funny. And Harrelson and Snipes have some real chemistry, which
For sure.
I love about this. The back of the box gives us everything we need to know. The whole film takes place in L.A., specifically Venice Beach. And the Venice Beach we get here looks almost identical to the Venice Beach of today. That part of L.A. just hasn't changed. And it's such a cool part of that city. So I really like that. But this centers around the hustling that takes place on the street ball courts throughout the community. In fact, the crew actually needed to secure protection from some gangs before shooting in some of the courts. Apparently, they ventured into some neighborhoods where they wouldn't normally be welcome. But for its age, I think the basketball really holds up in this movie. The racial politics don't actually take center stage as much as the title of the film suggests. I mean,
It's the premise.
Yeah, I mean, there's a regular acknowledgement of the fact that Woody Harrelson is white, but it's more of like a matter-of-fact thing. Like, he's often referred to just as like a geek or a chump, and I mean, he plays that part, and I think that's more of his character than just the fact that he's white.
And that's another reason why Woody Harrelson was so great for this, because especially coming off his role in Cheers, he's just like a aw shucks idiot looking kind of guy.
Yes, absolutely.
He doesn't look like he can jump.
No, he doesn't, and he kind of can't.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that you couldn't make today, but only because the white guy on the basketball court isn't tricking anybody these days.
No.
Like we know better now. Now we know maybe back in 1992, but like nowadays it's like no, you're ready for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole and one thing proved that white guys can do it.
Right.
So yeah, it's not really a movie about racial stereotypes. It is a masterclass in shit talk, which I think is one of the things that still holds up. I mean, this movie is great.
Wesley Snipes can yap.
Yeah, he definitely can. There's some great jokes. But why did I choose this? For all of the competition that exists in this movie, and there's a lot. You got Snipes versus Harrelson, one two-person basketball team versus another, Harrelson versus Perez, trash talk versus trash talk, even Perez versus the other Jeopardy contestants. There's one competitive element that I think is most interesting about this movie, and it's ultimately what I think the film is about, which is Woody Harrelson versus himself.
Okay. I had a different idea.
Oh, really?
You explain. Yeah, I'll tell you what I thought it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's a guy who can't escape his worst impulses. He's a gambler. He's overconfident in himself and the notion that he's just one more game, one more basket away from success. But I mean, he's not motivated by money. I think he's motivated by a genuine love for basketball and an addiction to the game.
He's the guy. Yeah, he's got an addiction to gambling, basically.
Yeah,
he's definitely. Yeah, he's looking for that. The score.
He is,
which is why he's running from the mob and why he keeps losing the money that he keeps making.
I think he's addicted to gambling because he really believes that he's as good as he is at this game. But in order to win the money that he wants to win, he needs to rely on more than just himself, and that backfires on him more than once. And he just can't ever learn that lesson, even though his relationship is at stake at certain times, his safety is at stake at certain times. He just can't give it up. But I think that because this movie is really about Woody Harrelson never really learning that lesson, it manages to sidestep a lot of the stereotypes and tropes that are normally associated with sports movies. This is not an underdog story. In fact, I think Woody Harrelson is probably one of the best basketball players in the movie. So he's not, he's not somebody who you don't expect to succeed. He's just not making a lot of smart decisions.
Yeah, he's just an idiot.
Yeah. He's naive to what's happening around him. He's trusting when he shouldn't be. He's secure in his relationship when he shouldn't be, and optimistic when he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So,
he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
He's a good basketball player, but he's stupid.
He's dumb. I think this is a movie that's actually kind of gotten better with age. Soundtrack still hits. Jokes still hit. And like I said, compared to a lot of other sports movies, this feels different than the typical thing that you see from Hollywood. It's a breath of fresh air. I already said that I think Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes have pretty great chemistry, but I also buy Woody Harrelson and Rosie Perez as a couple. So yeah, this is one of my favorites in the sports category, but I think it brings something deeper than what you might expect from a Woody Harrelson Wesley Snipes movie. But what did you think this was about when you were saying that?
Well, from a competitive nature,
yeah.
To me, this movie was about Woody Harrelson versus Wesley Snipes and how many layers of clothing they could wear.
Oh,
because Wesley Snipes is wearing 2 pairs of shorts and then 2 of the exact same shirt.
Yeah, he's got double tank top.
Double tank top.
Yeah.
The exact same style. Like there's not like you can't see like the layer. Like they fit the exact same way. He's just wearing 2 on top of each other.
It begs the question, if somebody were to walk onto a basketball court in Venice Beach today, dressed exactly like Wesley Snipes was back then, would you believe that this person is great at basketball or bad at basketball?
I got to think there's lots of dudes that dress like this. I mean, it's just like, I think in Venice Beach, there's lots of dudes that dress like this.
Yes.
That was definitely a moment in time, though, the spandex under the basketball shorts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys on the street court in this movie that are wearing the spandex or the basketball shorts. Right. Wesley Snipes is like, fuck that, I'm wearing both.
Doing both.
There's a couple guys that do that. I don't think that's really a look as much these days.
Yeah.
Except for down at Venice Beach.
I agree. So incidentally, Stanley Kubrick was a big fan of this movie. Did you know that?
He gave so few interviews, but he found the time to say that
more
this
than
is
once he listed this among some of his favorite films.
That's great.
You know what I can't get out of my head every time I watch this, though? It's the fact that Rosie Perez's character is introduced on Jeopardy as a former disco queen.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Why former? What pulled her away? Who crowned her?
Yeah.
And was disco still popular in
Yeah.
the 80s when she was presumably a disco? I don't know. I
Former.
just can't put it together.
Yeah, I didn't dig the Jeopardy subplot necessarily.
No.
I mean, I like the idea of her like studying for Jeopardy.
Right.
I think it would have worked better as a story if she had never gotten on Jeopardy.
I agree.
And this idea that he like snuck her onto Jeopardy, is that what
By way of
happened?
a security guard who worked on the back lot.
Yeah, you can get onto the set, but like, you know, they don't let you on the
doesn't
show.
make you a
Like, what is it? Yeah,
contestant.
yeah, that part didn't work for me. It was almost like this surreal, bizarro world on the side of this movie that just doesn't belong in the rest of it.
I agree. You didn't need it for this plot to still work and for the relationship to fall apart. Like it could have.
I think it's just more like the director's probably like, Rosie Perez is awesome, so let's give her another couple scenes.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know why else you would do that.
Right. Well, this averages a 3.5 on Letterboxd. I love it. I'm putting it on the shelf as the movie from 1992 that deserves your attention.
Number 3 on the 1992 competition list.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm moving us out of the 90s.
Great.
I'm going to take us to barely out of the 90s,
Okay.
to the year 2000. The movie is Battle Royale.
A classic.
A classic, yeah.
Classic, yeah.
This is directed by Kinji Fukasaku, written by his son. This is, you can find this in the children's section. Here's the back of the box. In the future, the Japanese government captures a class of 9th grade students and forces them to kill each other under the revolutionary Battle Royale Act. Tagline, could you kill your best friend?
Sometimes kids gotta die.
Yeah, good tagline.
Yeah.
As
That is a good tagline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As depicted in Battle Royale, unemployment in Japan is so bad that the authoritarian government is willing to try anything. And apparently that is up to and including abducting this 9th grade class, taking them to an island, and make them fight to the death until there's only one still alive.
Yep.
So I guess my main question is, how is this effective?
Right. Yeah,
What is
begs
this
a lot of
accomplishing?
questions. Yeah. Seriously.
I understand unemployment's bad and all, and like I guess you're killing some of the people that could be taking jobs, but like even that, there's better ways to do that.
It's crazy that unemployment is what they're trying to solve here,
Right.
not like overpopulation.
Yes.
I mean, not that killing 42 students would really put a dent in overpopulation, but it's not going to help unemployment either.
The premise of this movie is laid out right in front. Like, the recession is bad, unemployment's high. So once a year we kill a 9th grade class. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
I could see if it was like a TV show, like The Running Man or something.
Yeah.
Because like these kids have heard of it happening. They're like, oh, I remember this guy from the one year, but like it doesn't seem like it's that big of a cultural event.
No. I think Squid Game did a better job of making this a believable thing than necessarily what they
But you
outlined.
kind of just have to buy this premise. And,
Yeah, and not to take too much away from it because it is a lot of fun.
Yeah. But this is less of an outrageous thriller or a horror adjacent like cut 'em up than it is. It's more of a Verhoeven type social satire.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of humor below the surface. Again, the premise is like exaggerated to the point of stupidity.
Yeah.
There's no reason to think that this would help unemployment. There's no reason to think this would help people feel better about unemployment.
No.
You're not entertaining people. You're not, you're just saying like, we got this covered. We're going to take this 9th grade class and kill them all, or at least force them to kill each other.
Right.
But what it does is this is also an allegory for the like the cruel realities of adolescence, the friendships, the rivalries, the crushes, all these parts of being in 9th, 10th grade or whatever it is that feel horrific to a teenager are turned into actual horror before their eyes in this movie.
Yeah.
It's actually reminded me of a show I watched at the time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
Where it's like it's high school as actual horror. It's kind of the same idea. It's not, it's obviously a little bit different. I did wonder, how did Kitano get put in charge of the Battle Royale? Because
Can't answer it.
the movie doesn't really answer it, and it's I guess this goes to the ridiculous premise That's actually fun because it makes no sense. But he was their former teacher the year before, I think, this all happened.
Yeah.
And is that how they pick who is in charge of the Battle Royale? Is it like, oh, whoever their teacher was the last year? But that doesn't seem like that would be a good choice to pick a teacher to do it. And they also make it seem the class had been chosen, but it's also random.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be weird to be like, hey, buddy, your 7th grade class, we're going to murder them all next year. Do you mind running the program that does that?
You get to be in charge.
You're in charge of it. And it's the way he acts, like maybe that is kind of what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the actual Battle Royale, the way it's conducted is a little inconsistent, but it's there's a competition that is intense, it's brutal, it's to the death. And we get to see a lot of violence. It's not cartoonish, but it is a little tongue-in-cheek.
It is, yeah. And I think it needs to be. I think you made a good point comparing it to Verhoeven, because there's something about his directing and storytelling that works in much the same way. I mean, I think RoboCop is a good example, or Starship Troopers. And yeah, you need that here, I think, in order for it to be palatable.
Yeah, you don't want it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This movie has a bit of a reputation.
Oh, it does.
I don't think it's deserved.
Well, when I was introduced to this, I was in college, and I remember it circulating like, "Oh, have you seen Battle Royale?" Like, if you think you've seen fucked up movies, you have not seen Battle Royale.
Well, first of all, it's about children engaging in violence.
Yeah.
And granted, they're like 15. These actors or maybe even might be a little bit older.
Right.
But anytime you have children engaging in violence, that is going to be a little controversial.
Right.
But I think also because it got a rating, like I think it's called an R15 or something rating in Japan, which is basically their version of an R, and you can only go see it if you're 16 or older or something. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's rare over there, and it was like kind of a big deal. And then there were some violent acts that they try to, connect to the release of the movie, like they do, in this country for a lot of dumb shit. And so the producers of this movie, I don't think they were afraid to release it for legal troubles in America until like 10 years after it had been released. And also it had come out right after the Columbine happened, and so like I guess they did a test screening and it got like horrendous test screening reviews, and they're like, listen, we can never put this out in America. And I think when that happens, for whatever the reason is, it starts to gain a reputation, like you can't even get this movie here, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's violent, but it's nothing outrageous.
No, especially by today's standards.
Yeah, there's blood, there's some machine guns, and
yeah,
there's a couple throats getting slit.
I mean, I don't think it can be ignored that we now live in a world where Hunger Games also exists.
Yeah.
While it's a different movie with a different premise, it's still violence connected to children. And I mean, how different?
Yeah, I mean, by now too, unfortunately, we've gotten so used to school shootings and whatnot too that this is barely a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
So so this Battle Royale, it's the ultimate test of the survival of the fittest. Which is the ultimate competition. There's loads of iconic imagery in this, tons of provocative ideas, and so I'm putting it up on the shelf for competition.
I mean, if you haven't seen this,
I'm going to put it up a little higher than yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Why don't you just put it on one of the other shelves?
I'm just going to move these other movies off.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. No, I think this is a great movie to check out if you haven't already, and yeah, especially in a post Hunger Games world, it's a worthy watch. It's a good movie. Hunger
Games definitely ripped this off too.
Oh yeah.
If you like Hunger Games and you haven't seen this, come on, correct that.
Yeah. Well, fine choice. I am. You went forward in time from 1992. I'm going back in time from 1992 with 1986. The Color of Money.
Yes.
The Color of Money. Yes. So back of the box here. Former pool hustler Fast Eddie Felson decides he wants to return to the game by taking a pupil. He meets talented but green Vincent Lauria and proposes a partnership. As they tour pool halls, Eddie teaches Vincent the tricks of hustling, but he eventually grows frustrated at Vincent's showboat antics, leading to an argument and a falling out. Eddie takes up playing again and soon crosses paths with Vincent as an opponent. Tagline, the hustler isn't what he used to be, but he has the next best thing, a kid who is. It's 3 sentences. It's hard to call that a tagline.
Too long.
Yeah, but... so this is the second time I've brought a Scorsese movie to the shelf in recent weeks. Is Teen Sheet me that I like Scorsese better when he isn't telling mob stories? Because this is one of his best, in my opinion.
Here's my take.
Yeah.
Scorsese's good. Tom Hanks is good.
Tom Hanks is good. Scorsese's good. Yeah.
Put it on the poster.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why people trust us.
That's right. That's how we get repeat customers.
Apart from being one of Scorsese's best, I think this is also one of Paul Newman's best films. This sees him returning to a role that he played 30 years earlier in The Hustler from 1961. It doesn't feel like a traditional sequel, maybe because it's so far removed from the original, but it's definitely a continuation of one character's story. It's equal parts about it. I would say we get equal parts screen time, Tom Cruise and Paul Newman. This is also
it's really Paul Newman's story.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But this is also one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies. I don't even think he's acting here. I mean, anyone who saw this in 1986 was not surprised when he was jumping on the chair in the Oprah interview that he did. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is here. She plays Tom Cruise's girlfriend. The Tom Cruise of today doesn't typically have a love interest in the movies that he stars in. I think that's because it's just weird to think about Tom Cruise being intimate with another human being, but
yeah, that's definitely it.
It's
not believable.
No, it's not. But it was here. I think he pulls it off here. Mastrantonio's character is great. She's confident, smart, sexy. She has real chemistry with both Cruise and Paul Newman, in spite of the fact that they're so different in age. Scorsese made this at a pretty difficult time in his career. He had just made Raging Bull and After Hours, which we talked about recently. He kind of needed a studio picture to earn back some trust from Hollywood execs. And it was in order to make passion projects like Passion of the Christ and things like that, or Last Temptation of Christ. Though, incidentally, Scorsese's next project after this was Michael Jackson's video for Bad.
Wow.
I guess that's what he was really hoping to, direct.
It's no Thriller.
Yeah, anyway, this studio got him back into the good graces of the studios. It made something like $52 million on a budget of 14. Netted Paul Newman a Best Actor Oscar. This is the only time that Scorsese shot a film under budget. A lot of people think this is inferior to The Hustler, but I really love Color of Money. Interestingly, both this and White Men Can't Jump feature a nearly identical quote, which is sometimes when you win, you lose, and when you lose, you win. It's there in both movies. And that's probably because there's a strong hustling component in both of these films. But competition is present in different ways here. We've got Cruise versus Newman, Cruise versus himself, Cruise versus the other hustlers.
And also, Newman is trying to get Tom Cruise to be less competitive and be more professional.
Yes. Yeah. There's an art to hustling, and Cruise is not playing by the book,
Yeah, because Newman's like, listen, your job is to make money, not to win these games.
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely.
And Tom Cruise is like too competitive. He won't allow himself to be second best.
Yeah, and he's constantly making this case that I just want to play pool. That's why I'm here. And
then
money is great.
Then it's like, maybe he shouldn't be doing it for money then.
Right. Exactly. There's also Newman versus his own age in this movie, which is a real thing that you could understand why that would be holding him back a little bit.
He looks good, though.
He doesn't look
great.
Old. He looks exactly like he does on his salad dressing containers and his pasta sauce jars.
Got to dig the mustache, too.
The mustache is awesome.
The mustache Paul Newman is a particular kind of Paul Newman.
Yeah. I'm most fascinated with Paul Newman's arc in this movie. You said it. It is his movie. But, I love that when he hears Tom Cruise's break at the pool table at the beginning of the movie, it literally stops Paul Newman in his tracks mid-conversation, and he's just so believable as this, wise old sage.
He knows immediately.
Yeah, he knows immediately. He's like, that guy deserves my attention.
It's like in a baseball movie when and I don't even know if this has been in a movie, but when a guy, like a scout, can just hear the catcher's mitt snap from the end and be like, oh, who's pitching?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
who is that guy?
Yeah. It has that quality to it. So yeah, he knows everything there is to know about billiards and hustling, even though he isn't still playing pool at this age, or at the beginning of the movie, he exudes this confidence that makes you believe that he can walk into any room or in front or to any pool table and just own the space.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise has a different type of confidence. He's a great player, terrible hustler. Everything about Vince is so much fun, though. I mean, I love that he wears this T-shirt throughout the movie that just says Vince. Vince really big on the front. It's just
I think that's like very emblematic, and it's from his dumb job at the toy store. But I think that's very emblematic, and Cruise, partially because maybe this is kind of who he was at the time, but like he's such like the early 20s dumbass.
Oh yeah,
and like I've known some people in their 20s in recent years, and that's just how they are. They're dumb. They're dumb, but like not in like a bad way.
Yeah.
Not like in a Woody Harrelson and White Men Can't Jump way, where it's just like they're just like walking erections or something. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like they're just boners banging into things.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's kind of what he is in this.
It is. It really is. And yeah, it's just. I think it's one of the purest Tom Cruise performances that I've seen. He took this movie on right after Top Gun, and it's surprising how different those characters are. They're both very confident, but there's something, I don't know, erratic about Vince.
Something very
Maverick.
very, very loose.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Maverick is in the military.
Right, absolutely. I really love the world that this movie puts us in. Smoky pool halls, cheap hotel rooms, divey bars, and eventually Atlantic City casinos. Those are just places where good stories unfold, And the story is great. It's a comeback story. Anyone who thinks that John Wick owns the quote, "I've got a feeling I'm back," needs to watch this, because Newman comes back in a great way.
When he comes back, it's so satisfying.
Fucking good.
He's so fucking cool.
Supporting cast is pretty good. John Turturro's here. Even Iggy Pop shows up in a scene. And speaking of musicians, the soundtrack, as is usually the case with the Scorsese picture, is just phenomenal. So, surprisingly, neither Siskel nor Ebert really liked this film. Both were annoyed at the ending, which I think is fantastic.
It's a perfect ending.
It's a perfect fucking ending. Yeah, I love it. Clocks in at a 3.6 on Letterboxd.
That's low.
It is low. Well, what's not low is where I'm putting this. I'm actually hanging it above the shelf from the ceiling. So anyone who wants it and can't reach, I'll pull it down for you.
So good. I had a weird experience going back to this.
Yeah.
It had been so long since I'd seen it that I actually forgot if I had seen it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I love that movie, but like I literally can't remember if I've seen it. Am I like thinking of something else? And then 5 seconds into the movie, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not only have I seen this, I love this movie.
It's a fucking great movie.
It had been probably 20 years since I'd seen it, but it is fucking amazing. Maybe the greatest camera work of all time.
Oh, my God. The way they shoot the pool scenes in this. I mean, the whole movie is shot incredibly well, but the pool scenes in particular are just tremendous.
The camera work in the pool scenes is absolutely incredible. Every single shot is incredible.
Yeah.
The scene with the Werewolf of London playing,
yes,
where it circles the shot where it circles the pool table, incredible. One of the best of all time.
Mm-hmm. It's a great movie. There's a lot of small moments in this. I mean, you called out the Werewolf in London scene. I love the scene where after Paul Newman wins an important match in the pool tournament, and he goes outside just for a moment to fucking cheer for himself, and he comes right back in. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's done really well. So this is a great one if you haven't seen it.
Scorsese, he's good.
Yeah, he should get another movie.
Yeah, I wish he'd go back to making movies, actually. He's making like 4-hour somethings.
I know. Just more of this type of stuff, please. Well, we've come to the end. 6 fine staff recommendations, 1 fun theme. As always, Rob and I thank you for paying a visit to Rewind Video. This week, there's some stiff competition on the staff recommendation shelf for what you should take home tonight. The films we chose are Glengarry, Glen Ross, Gattaca, A League of Their Own, White Men Can't Jump, Battle Royale, and The Color of Money.
Go to rewindvideopod.com to get on our mailing list or to get in touch with us here at the store. Send us questions, comments, suggestions.
Yeah.
And of course, we believe in curation through recommendations, so be kind, recommend.
Love that. That does it for this week's episode. Next time, pack a cooler and a mixtape as we take on road trip movies.
Hell yeah.
That'll be fun. We'll have 6 films to recommend, but of course, we're also interested in what you think. So don't hesitate to hit us up on social. In the meantime, feel free to stop by the counter for a movie to watch, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Satan.